It's Monday, 30th of March, 2026, and this evening's show, we review Saturday's massive and potentially season-defining win against Burton on Saturday, a result which lifts us out of the relegation zone, keeps pressure on Exeter, a team who are in freefall, and we are facing off against Bloomfield Road on Good Friday. What's turned out to be the biggest game of the season thus far. I'm John Aspinall, this is Seaside's podcast, match reaction show. Blackpool 1, Burton Albion 0. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Seaside's podcast. And thank God we've won that game. The Steez season is still with us. On the panel this evening are Nick, Mitch, and Tim. We are slightly late, thanks to that man I just mentioned, rocking up 1 minute past 8. Not good enough, Sir K. I bet you wouldn't do this at PMQs, would you? So why'd you do it on the podcast?
Well, work and trying to. I thought, better watch the highlights, which lasted all of 2 minutes. And I think you could have edited that down to 30 seconds.
Wasn't the best, Nick, was it? But got the job done.
Yeah, well, I was just saying to Mitch off air, it should really be quite a quick match review. Your first talking point could be the 90th minute, but it didn't matter, did it? It was about the 3 points, and I'd take it all again on Friday if it happened again. So, yeah, that was the most important part.
Evening, Mitch. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad. I just want to welcome everybody in the comments. I especially want to welcome Big Dog Walker. Evening, Daz. Daz kindly provided, as you can see, I'm sporting this new shirt. I'll make myself big. Turn myself into John Aspinall TV. For those of certain vintage badge and up the mighty pool. Daz, Big Dog Walker. So if you've got any big dogs want walking, Daz is your man.
While we're on shirts, start for 10. What relevance has that got to Blackpool Football Club?
BFC.
Well, no. I'll do it again. Give them a chance to answer in the comments.
Well, I know, so I won't say.
Yeah.
BFC 1909. Don't know.
Well, let's see if anybody answers first. Is there a quiz?
We'll leave it to run in the comments. We'll leave it to run. So, thanks ever so much, Daz. We had some bad news in the family, and Daz and Tony finally got us this. Thankfully, got us this and this great mug as well. So we may mint a few as well for our listeners. We're going to get everyone on the panel one, and we'll knock a few out and spread the joy that way. Right, let's get on with the game. Say welcome to everyone. Welcome, Phil. Eddie's en route from Cologne on a school trip, 16-hour coach journey. So hopefully see you.
Why do they never fly on school trips? They never do, do they? My kids went to Austria skiing and they went on a coach. It's like, in what planet do you get a coach to Austria?
Well, at least you're going to Austria. We went to Martin Mig bloody bird sanctuary when I was at school. Fucking hell, and Hornsey Pottery. It's a bloody Austria.
I don't think we went anywhere. Because the teachers were on strike all the time. I gone to London once.
Anyway, we've had a couple of correct answers already. By the way, we've had a couple of correct answers in the comments. It's a Bologna. It's a polo, but it's a Bologna polo. Purchased for my forthcoming trip to watch Bologna against Roma, which, of course, are the two teams who played in the Anglo-Italian Cup finals. Not that I remember at the time. So,
for those of certain vintage.
We have to be really have to be of a certain vintage to have been at the 1971 or the 1972 Cup finals.
And those are a particular vintage, I think, that one.
Oh, very good, Andy. Is that the time you left work tonight? Yes.
Somebody said it was the year I was born.
Who said that? What's that?
I think that was Dave Hart, if I remember rightly, which is a bit cheeky, seeing he's got at least 15 years on me.
Superb. Right, let's get on with the game, shall we? If we must, we'll try and eke an hour out tonight. I think we will hopefully get to an hour because we'll have to make some stuff up to talk about. But this was how we lined up. Big Franco in net, Ravizoli. Casey Osfall, is that right? This ain't right, is it?
No, CJ was swap CJ and husband, and it's more or less.
Pretty sure FOTMob have had an AI hallucination generation. Yeah. Jimmy left-sided centre half. This wasn't the formation either.
He did play on the wing for Doncaster in about 2017 or something twice.
Oh, Jimmy did.
He did.
Knowledge. So, bowler right, wing back, Brown, Honeyman, Mandlin, Mill, and Fletcher and Bloxham up top. Anyone, any reservations in that? Obviously, Ravizoli's a bit of a car crash at times. Any other comments on the general team pick there?
I think it was one of them where I kind of looked at it and it wasn't exactly what I'd expected. I'd sort of hoped that we might go for the way we played against Port Vale and sort of set bowler loose. But then when I thought about it, it was, we're without a few players again. Obviously, we've got the players away on international duty. Anderson's missing in midfield, and Iekwe's not available. So it was kind of a bit like, it was quite tricky actually to see what else you really could do to get the players out there.
Walters benched. Was that a surprise to anyone? Clarkson benched, still on the bench as well. Randall, was he deserving of a starting position? I
did think actually. I thought Clarkson. I think we were speaking about this on the last pod, weren't we? And that maybe Clarkson was the one for this home game where he perhaps wasn't what we needed at Cardiff. So I was sort of half surprised he didn't start. I think it's been mentioned in the chat as well. I think and it's not starting. I wondered, bearing in mind we had Taylor as well, I wondered whether, I thought the more adventurous attacking option would be for Ennis to start, and then if he tired, then you've got Taylor on the bench and also the option of Bloxham, but probably because Bloxham did have a fairly decent impact, particularly when he came on last home game. Perhaps he's felt he's worthy to start, but I think we've seen. I'm not convinced up front that the Fletcher and Bloxham partnership works particularly well together. Most certainly not from the point of view of this. I suppose this to a certain degree is the benefit of hindsight. But I think if you look back at the other games where they've played together, we haven't exactly created a lot of chances, and so I don't particularly see them as an effective partnership for a home game when you're looking to make sure you score goals. So I would have preferred, personally, I was quite surprised we didn't see any start. I even wondered whether he might have gambled on Taylor.
Good to see him back though on the bench.
Massive to see him back. But I'm saying because I know he's been back in training for a while. I wonder whether he'd perhaps flip between the two of Taylor and Ennis as to who started and who came. Because I saw them almost as being with pre-match them being a straight swap for each other. So yeah, I'd probably say they were mine. The mic, and I'll be honest, I always moan. I always sort of sigh a bit when I see CJ play, but I'm going to have to eat some humble pie tonight, I think. So
you certainly are. Nick, anything to add before we go on to the game?
No, I sort of echo what the guys have said. I know sort of pre-match we were talking about like whether Randall would play, and he's not had much of an impact. Although I think first off at times it wouldn't necessarily have mattered if it was Clarkson or Randall, because we went long a little bit at times, didn't we? So whoever it was would just be looking up at the air and watching the ball sail over the head. And I agree with Bloxham. I think off the bench he seems to be a bit more fired up. We know Ennis, we can't get 90 minutes out of him, so it's whether he comes off the bench or he starts and we get an hour out of him. Other than that, Yeah, sort of as expected, really.
Pre-match, we had a fan zone.
Yeah, we did, and I did go and have a quick visit. What I would say is about, I don't know if it went earlier, but there was a rain shower about 2:15, was there?
Fucking hell, Tim, a rain shower. That's under-egging the pudding a bit.
Well,
Bloody
I
hell.
was in the pub at the time. I didn't leave until after
Jesus.
over, and I think that probably was a bit of the death knell for it. So I think I'd make the observations I would make is having a fan zone in March when you've got no shelter is not a great idea. I think also generally, and listen, they made an effort, and it's worth trying these things, but without any form of shelter at all, it's not a great idea. The second thing is, I think they probably work a bit better when the ground is, let's say you're at Reading. I know I've been in Reading's fan zone, and it was pretty good, to be fair. And it was good because there's bugger all pubs around the ground, where obviously in Blackpool, you've got quite a few hostelries in close vicinity, which we're all used to frequenting. And on a one-off to get people to break that habit, to go and stand in the freezing cold, just because there's coastal radio there and a little bit of entertainment for the kids, isn't the greatest incentive in the world. So I think if they're going to do it again, they've got to have a rethink, because they have got competition. So for me, all the ones that really work are where there's no competition, or where the crowd is so big anyway that the local pubs are always packed out. So they're going to pack out. That said, I do applaud them for making the effort, but it was very sparse when I got there at 2:30. So and I made the effort of going down there just to see what it was like, but it wasn't a great experience, if I'm being honest. So I think they've got to rethink on that. The second thing I'd say, though, is, and as much as I maligned the labelling of this as homecoming day, and I still I was still a bit uncomfortable with that, to be honest, because it's bugger all to do with homecoming day, and it was just a marketing ruse, which I didn't think should be linked to something so momentous when it didn't actually. It was 7 years and 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. It's to me, you do it on the day or the nearest game, you don't bother. But the incentive of doing the cheap tickets, albeit marketing-wise, it didn't quite work for me, clearly worked. I mean, I thought the atmosphere pre-match, I made an effort to get into my seat sort of 10 minutes beforehand, and it was worth it, wasn't it? You know, Wayne was out on the pitch replicating his efforts back in 2019, and went to the Southend game when he did that fantastic video that got all those views, you know, albeit on a slightly smaller scale, because obviously the East was empty. I thought that worked really, really well. I thought it was disappointing X Block wasn't open. I'm not going to moan at the club too much, but they should have had that open, and they shouldn't have been keeping it closed. It was pathetic to keep it closed, thinking they weren't going to need it, because they ran out of tickets to sell, which is ran out of tickets, only 11,000 in the ground. So that's why X Block, as I understand it, stayed shut, because they didn't think they needed it. So that's very short-sighted when you're trying to fill a stadium in the first place. But all that said, I think it gave us the stage. It gave us a stage to win the game, and I thought the atmosphere from 10 or 15 minutes before the start of the game was probably the best of the season. I think I would go as far as to say, and I think that continued despite what we're going to go on to talk about for the first 90 minutes, and that has to be commended, because it was a tough watch.
I think that's understatement of the year, Mitch. The first note I've put down, we can't get out of our own half. This was on 8 minutes, and Burton are time wasting already from corners down your end. From 8 minutes, they set the stall out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bumper crowd, you know, potentially kids dragging parents down, maybe kids going and seeing the first football match. So I think we can be safe in the knowledge that those kids are well and truly introduced to what delights that League One football can bring. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing happened, was there? As you say, there were the Burton players wandering very, very, very slowly over to take corners and then taking 30 seconds spotting the ball up. We couldn't get hold of the ball. I mean, I think we probably wanted to get the ball down and play, but we just couldn't. We couldn't get the ball down and play. It'd be unfair to say we were outfought in midfield, but what we couldn't do was establish any control in midfield. There wasn't that. There was no space. And Burton sat so deep. They really, really did. So one thing I noticed was that it was very much a 3-5-2. So it was very much CJ and Bowler really pushing up quite high. But despite the fact that we at times only had, literally, if one of the centre backs had driven, we had sort of 2 players at the back, and then maybe the centre back had stepped up in midfield. So that's sort of 8 attacking players. There was just no space anywhere because they were just absolutely camped. And I mean, what actually happened in the first half? Brown got a booking quite early on, which was probably a bit problematic in terms of us trying to stamp some control on it, because that kind of nullified Brown a little bit, and he had to be careful. But beyond that, there was a bit of...
Well, just before that, Mitch, there was a lot of fouls before Brown got booked, and Brown puts a robust challenge in and gets booked straight away. It's like the first foul the ref given, and it was a bloody booking. I don't even think it was a booking. I don't know if it was a foul.
I could be misremembering this, but it was a pretty regulation trip from what I remembered. But it wasn't, it wasn't a last man situation by any means, or a particularly dangerous situation, and nor was it a particularly aggressive challenge. It wasn't one that you'd say was dangerous, and it just seemed to be, like you say there, almost like a totting up of, oh, hang on, I'm letting these fouls get a bit out of order, right? I better book someone, and then the next one gets booked. I mean, it was an absolute non-event, wasn't it, for most of the first half?
Nick, I've picked out.
John, so their fouls seem to me to be incredibly cynical. I was a little bit disappointed with Gary Bowyer, because I know he knows how to do a job on us, but I thought there was more cynicism in the way that their team approached that game. Not just in the first half, the whole game, and the ref didn't really seem to penalise them for it. To me, I mean, they were going, putting aside just going down at any opportunity. I think it took him until the second half before he put one of them for anything which I considered to be a cynical challenge, almost denying a goal scoring opportunity in one case. But like I said, and you compare that with Brown, he probably got his timing wrong, and he was a bit over exuberant. But at least he was trying to play the ball or have a stab at playing the ball. Where their fouls seem to be, for me, to be incredibly cynical and all about breaking up patterns of play and stopping anybody playing football. So that was just my observation. I thought their approach to the game was incredibly, bearing in mind there's an incentive to them to win the game from the point of view of, they're now dragged back into it a little bit, as we'll no doubt go on to discuss, where if they got the result, they were clear, weren't they? It was a little bit of a free hit for them, I thought, where they could have gone for it and played proper football. They'd beaten us before by playing their way. They didn't play. I'm trying to think back to the game we played down at their place, but I don't recall them being anything like as cynical then. Yes, they were lobbing the ball up to Beasley, and yes, they were causing us problems, but they weren't just fouling and diving all over the place. So that was my take on it, and I felt that they didn't come to contribute to the occasion, shall we say? Whether they were obliged
Tim as well,
of course.
Saying Tim, the swapping of the ends as well, which they did. Gary Bowyer,
there's something about the sun being in the eyes, wasn't there, of the keeper, which might have influenced that
possibly.
I'm assuming. So I think where the sun was. I'm assuming that the sun would have been in our eyes in the south at that point, wouldn't it? If I've got it right. But the sun was fairly, despite the downpour, that preceded it, the sun was quite bright during the game. So, but yeah, I didn't quite get. I saw his post match, and he was, and if I suppose if you're giving him any credit at all, is that they get to the 91st minute where there's still they could have had. He talked about there being one opportunity, didn't there? And I think he's gone into that game thinking there's going to be one opportunity, and I'm going to make sure that there's only one opportunity all game, and hopefully it's ours. And that was very much the take I had on Burton's approach. And I think they were I think they could have been better than that, which is where I'm really coming from. And that might actually cause us more problems. Who knows?
In his defence,
their fans were raging. I don't know if anyone saw any of their vlogs. Their fans were raging about the way they approached this game.
If you watched a highlights package of our season, though, you would think, well, we'll just turn up there, do nothing, and they'll throw it in their own net sooner or later. You can understand what I'm sort of being slightly facetious or slightly humorous with that, but you can understand why away teams would go, we don't really have to beat Blackpool, they will beat themselves. So maybe he was hoping that would happen.
Let's get the first half stats graphic up now. Just a very quick look at it. Expected goals for Burton. I have never seen this before in the entire half of football. 0.00 XG, 0 shots, 0 on target, 0 big chances, 0 big chances missed. I mean, there's coming to play for a draw, and there's doing it to the extreme. So if you're a Burton fan, you're going to be reasonably pissed off with that performance, and a lot of them were from the
rightly so. I think because they would have been effectively safe if they'd won that game.
Yeah,
a lot of people have got a very positive view of Gary Bowyer because he talks well on the radio. But I mean, I didn't watch a hell of a lot of us under Gary Bowyer, just the odd game I saw on television. But in sort of other jobs, I know, like at Dundee, he was at Dundee in the Scottish Championship, and they had by far the biggest budget in that league, and their fans absolutely hated him. He got them up, but when he left the season he got them up, and they were like, thank God he's gone. That was the worst football we've ever seen. And a lot of people, whenever jobs come up or whenever a vacancy comes up, there's a lot of people sort of say, oh, what about Gary Bowyer? But I don't know. I've always thought that he has a fairly, and it's perfectly valid. It's a perfectly, you're allowed to play football like that. But I've never really gone, wow, I'd really like to go and watch a Gary Bowyer team play. They always seem to be a bit rugged, industrial, cynical, pragmatic, whatever,
Tony makes a good point there as well, doesn't he? You just highlighted it, John, as I started saying it. That bearing in mind that we've got Peacock Fowl on international duty, and we're effectively blooding the number 2. You know that, and you think, I mean, the one time he had a shot at him, he ended up sort of half parrying it, and it gave us a few footers, didn't it, in the second half? But they never tested him at all. Your stats show that, don't they?
They didn't test our defence either, though. Sorry, Tim.
Go on. Sorry.
Think what our Achilles heel's been all season. Balls into the box. Beasley, if he's okay at anything, it's he can get on the end of a cross. And they didn't even do that. I think they had that one ball in the first half where their attackers just quite not got on the end of it. But other than that, there's just no intent. And like you said, I mean, it's worked out for us. I think they got what they deserved in the end. But when in the first 10 minutes, the guy's sauntering over to take a corner like the 1-0 up in the 90th minute, you just think, this is what we're in for. And then it's not a massive surprise that when you combine that with a ref who was very much, it's all about me, that it was a pretty poor spectacle that, throughout.
We did have a couple of, half chances, Nick. Written in my notes when Bloxham's whipped one in, no one on the end of it. Tame long range shot from Brown. The disallowed goal from Fletcher. Maybe that's the main talking point from
Yeah,
first
it was
half.
quite near to where we were, and as much as the ref pissed me off and got a lot wrong, I think on that one it was a bit of a shove from Fletch and possibly a handball as well, and he blew straight away the second it happened. So I think it's probably one of the few things he got right. Unfortunately,
Good finish though. To be fair,
It was.
Great finish.
Yeah, and Fletch had that header, didn't he? I think someone just mentioned it in the comments where their keeper just sort of parried it away. So we were trying, Bo, you got into a couple of positions. We had a couple of balls across the box, but there just wasn't quite anybody in the end of it. But we do struggle when teams sit back like that, and then we end up sometimes going a bit long. There's a couple of long diagonals, weren't there, from Horsfall? But overall, yeah, it was a pretty turgid first 45 minutes.
That pass forward from Horsfall was probably my highlight of the first half. That one he drilled and sort of cut inside, and CJ ran. I mean, it ended up being offside, didn't it? But that was a really lovely ball.
Yeah.
Obviously, aside from that 25 minutes, it was the applause for my cousin Joe. It's his funeral tomorrow. I thought that was brilliantly observed by everyone in the ground. I noticed Evo even clapping along. Joe's family were in the south, his kids. I think for them to see that moment for the dad, it must have, I think it really helped them in the grief. It put a lump in my throat, and it was a great moment. Just to at times like this when you think football doesn't mean anything, it kind of means everything as well, doesn't it? When people coming together. So I just wanted to thank every single person in that stadium who put their hands together to clap for Joe. I want to thank Raggy for getting the message out, Grimmy for getting the message out, everyone from the Armfield Club, and everybody who's retweeted and did that for Joe. It was a fantastic moment for our family, and some small bit of solace in the this really horrible time that we're going through. So I want to thank everybody out there for getting involved in that, and it was a fantastic thing to witness. And we've got some good videos of it. So thank you everybody who did join in with that, and I want to thank Evo for clapping along as well. Joe would have absolutely loved that. I know he'd have been humbled that whole ground rose up and gave him a round of applause. So thanks ever so much, everybody. Onto the game then. I've put lacking of a tent has nullified the atmosphere. I wrote that on 30 minutes, and it was a great atmosphere, and it was nullified by was it a lack of intent, or were we just sort of shithoused out of playing?
I think it was more the latter. I don't think we were trying to sit back. It is difficult when you've got a team who are so obviously there to try and play for a point. Look at the stats. No. They weren't trying to get forward hardly at all. We're going down every 5 minutes. It was you just get so frustrated when you see it, and that they're all going over for a bit of a conflab with the manager for 5 minutes, and bit of coaching, and then they're up again 30 seconds later, and they're not injured. It happens a lot, doesn't it? It just adds to the frustration. So yeah, we were poor, but I don't think it was any lack of for lack of trying, shall we say.
Big moment, 40 minutes. Ollie Casey's gone down, injured. Feared for the worst, really, when that happened. Replaced by Rule Waters. And did we go to a back four? I was just studying what was going on. Couldn't really work it out. So.
I thought Walters just sort of slotted in, and that sort of right hand centre back position. Like I say, I mean, I think the two wing backs were very high anyway. And I must admit, I did fear the worst because Walters has not shone in his wing back role. And I thought, well, he's not played very well in his wing back role in the last couple of games. I'm not sure, I'm not sure how robust he's going to be at centre back, and I did wonder if they might then kind of try and target him a little bit because he's not really a centre back, Bill, but he did all right.
He did.
And that was that. End of the first half. Couldn't get any worse, could it?
Well, he couldn't get a pie at half time, apparently.
I went down 3 minutes before half time with a stupid time to go down. It was absolutely rammed underneath the West. Bumped into Dougie Nick. I think he already had a pint in his hand. I was jealous.
Yeah, they were all there. Yeah. It doesn't take much for it. We've run out of stuff quite a few times this season, haven't we? With much lower credit. I went down at half time. I didn't go down with any intention of queuing up for anything because I knew it'd be absolutely packed, So
second half then. I've penned Burton players going down, air quotes, injured again on 49 minutes, but I think they were they actually injured? Let's look at their subs. But they were shithousing again, weren't they? Basically from the outset of the second half.
Yeah.
It was just a continuation of what they were doing. But they did it all game, didn't they? So it was they actually marginally increased their stats in the second half by having one shot. Was that when the corner got carried down, or was that? I'm trying to. There was a very tame shot straight into the keeper he was under no pressure at all just to collect it. I don't know whether they're considering that to be the shot on target, but I'm struggling to think of any other scenario other than the corner where the ball fell loose and that P roller back to keeps that where they did anything. So it must be that must be the one that's saying is a shot on target, and that which is stretching the credibility somewhat.
So they upped the ante in the second half. They actually registered on the XG rating 0.06. Look at that. Our accurate passing ratio was very, very poor in the second half. 55%, only 79 passes made. I did notice that it was a very, very scrappy game, wasn't it? Low on quality from both sides, and basics weren't happening.
I think the problem was we were out muscled in the centre of midfield, weren't we? For one, Randall, for me, had an absolute nightmare. Now, whether it was his fault or whether it was we weren't getting the ball to him, I don't know what it was. But I mean, I remember literally until the substitutions got made, the number of comments around me about what the hell is he doing and what's he doing on the pitch. That was a recurring theme. And to be fair, it was justified because I didn't see much contribution at all. And I think the problem was they managed to seem to nullify Bowler. We weren't really getting the last home game. We got the ball out to Bowler a lot, didn't we? And we really let him run free. Where we weren't getting the ball out to him. And then you had Fletcher and Bloxham up front who were like paper tigers, I felt a little bit on Saturday. They just weren't having any impact whatsoever. So all of a sudden, and I think by 60 minutes, we were all screaming for subs, weren't we? And we knew we had the options on the bench. We knew they had the ability to introduce Coulson. We knew we had the ability to introduce Ennis and Taylor. And we also had the option with Clarkson as well, who I still think should have started on Saturday. So I think the good thing is we had options to make it different, but it really did need to be changed because we were pretty turgid. Like, we've got to be honest about it. I mean, Jesus Christ, there was very few redeeming features in that first 90 minutes from either side. I think we at least were trying to do something where they weren't, but our endeavour didn't produce much in the way of returns. It's got to be said.
Just dip into the comments now. Dave Arts just said it's very windy. A few people have said that. Maybe that had an effect on the quality of the game.
I was going to say that in terms of getting out to Bowler, there was a couple of times when we tried to switch it and the ball just got carried away. And I think that was problematic because we were sometimes trying to play down one flank and switch it to another, but it was just that horrible swirling wind that just took that option away. And then we were trying to run through them, but they were sat so deep that they were, that literally they were just packing the defence. And, Bowler would pick it up and there'd be 3 players in front of him. And, it's been I'm trying to avoid using a Chisnallism here, but it's been a hobby horse of mine, as he would say, that we just don't have the physical presence. So, you try and go long, but it's not going to work with Bloxham, who's, allergic to heading the ball, and Fletch, who's not exactly, he's not exactly Nat Lofthouse, is he? So it's it just was frustrating because it was just, I don't know, it just was, you could just see it just playing out and playing out and playing out. And with Randall, I felt like he was kind of neither fish nor fowl. Like, he wasn't really playing like an attacking midfielder. So he wasn't really getting up and sort of being aggressive and pressing high. But he also wasn't really getting stuck in midfield. He was just kind of stuck, not really doing anything. Which is a shame, because, I was really happy when we signed him, because he played as well as I've ever seen in League One. One of the best performances I've ever seen by a League One player for Peterborough, but he's looked nothing like that for us.
No. So Ennis came on for Bloxham on 60 minutes, and triple subs: Nick Taylor for Fletcher, Clarkson for Randall, Coulson for Bowler. Fletcher was particularly ineffective for me. It was quite frustrating, and particularly with Bloxham as well. 2 big units. We couldn't play through them, so we kept going long. Considering they're so big, those 2.
Well, we've said it all season, haven't we? That neither of them are target men. They ain't Gary Medine, that's for sure.
Physically, they are, though, aren't they?
Well, that's the weird. Yeah, you'd look at them and think, right, get the ball up to them. They'll be able to hold it. Fletcher's, they're both good with the ball at the feet, but they just seem to disappear when they go up for a header. It's and Fletch, he's when he's on it, he's great, but when he's not, it's a bit the same with Bloxham. They can be really ineffective. So I think those subs, I don't think you find anybody who disagree with him. I think Bowler I don't know if he was limping at the end, or whether, I've not seen any updates, but a couple of people mentioned they thought he'd had a bit of a knock. Hopefully it's nothing serious.
Just before he came off, Nick, I don't know if you noticed this, but just before he came off, Evo actually, it was a breaking play, and Evo actually walked out onto the pitch, put his arm around him, had a chat. They had a chat, and then Evo sort of went, all right, went back, and then the subs was... Yeah. So I don't know if Evo had come out and gone, are you all right? And
he ran off into the stands. Into the
he was straight down the tunnel. So I'm guessing he just went to get ice or massage or whatever, so...
Yeah, hopefully it's, like it says in the comments there, if it is his hamstring, he's felt in. We've done the right thing with him coming off, and we won't have
the last thing you want, isn't it? How many times do players on with hamstring?
And then missing all of pre-City. Let's not even go there. But good options to come off the bench, with Ennis and Taylor. Coulson gives us a bit of energy, and let's be honest, it couldn't have been any worse than it was, could it? So, yeah, happy with all of those.
Taylor injected a bit of urgency and directness in the game, didn't he? I think he was our most effective sub, and Ennis as well. Ennis ain't the biggest guy in the world, but he puts his body in there and he just makes a nuisance of himself.
I was going to say that when you were talking about hold-up players, I was going to say probably Ennis is our best hold-up player, even though he's about 5'9".
And he shouldn't be, though, should he?
No, exactly. No, Tom Bloxham should eat him for breakfast with his combination of physical and skill, but he doesn't, and Ennis is Bloxham should just watch a video of Ennis and just go, well, do that. Because he'd be with his body and his physicality and his skill, you just go, we've repeated ourselves, haven't we? But yeah. And actually, on the same note, I thought Clarkson did very well, because I don't know, it's hindsight, isn't it, to say that, well, Clarkson should have started the game, and possibly Clarkson had an impact because he came on whatever it was, 73 minutes or something, and because he came on against a side that were tiring, and he had fresh legs. But I thought he did very well. He's you can't help but say he's lightweight because he looks like he looks like he'd blow away with a strong gust of wind. But I thought he really pressed. He did what Randall didn't do, was burst out of midfield and really pressed and made it hard for them to just knock it about at the back. And he charged around, and it was really good to see because he wanted to get the ball and make something happen, which obviously ultimately he did.
The pair of them did, didn't they, Mitch?
Yeah.
Down your end, I think you're the best to talk us through this. 2 subs involved, and cometh the hour, cometh the man.
Yeah, I mean, Franco booted it long, and his kick was, before we get to the goal, his kicking was good. It was very straightforward. It was very simple, but it was just up the middle, direct, normally rounding about a player. He wasn't booting it over the top or slicing it out of play. Long kick. Ennis sort of holds it up, and he's in one of those sort of battling, fighting, scrapping little duels he gets in, knocks it out to Randall, who I thought did absolutely, not Randall, Clarkson, who I thought did absolutely brilliantly. It was it was one of the few real bits of quality where he just sort of cut inside, changed direction. 2 or 3 of their players were still going the other way while Steve was cutting inside. And then I thought, right, he's going to take this on and he's going to shoot. And for a split second, when he squared it for CJ, I had that moment, what's he doing? Like, why has he done that? And then obviously you could see that CJ was then straight in. And of course, CJ straight in on goal, 90th minute, in game. What could possibly go wrong? And he just buried it, didn't he? It was just,
I wouldn't even say he was through on goal, Mitch. He was just kind of at an angle, wasn't he? He wasn't through on goal, so it wasn't an easy chance by any stretch of the imagination.
It wasn't an easy chance, and I really expected him to square it because that's what he does. He hardly ever shoots these days. And it was weird because it was just sort of in the net before I'd even processed it. And it just went manic, didn't it?
Sometimes the criticism is that when he's in those positions, he doesn't shoot because he looks like he's scared, doesn't he? He looks like he's scared and he takes an extra touch, or he looks to lay it off, whatever he might do. And he did the exact opposite of what he does every other frigging game. And all hail to him, because Jesus, that's probably the most important goal in the last 3 seasons, I would say.
And I thought as well, John, because obviously it was at the other end and I couldn't really see it. I thought he scuffed it a bit, and I thought, how's that gone? I mean, I think the keeper was disappointed he's near post, but I think the keeper was probably thinking, well, he's going to go across me here, whether it's a shot or a cross. Probably wasn't expecting it. And then when I watched it back, I did him a disservice because he struck it really well. It was, dare I say, most un-CJ-like, because there's lots of times where he's in those positions and something else happened other than what happened on Saturday. And it was quite fitting that it was him, really, because he's been around a while. And like you say, it's such an important goal. Because let's be honest, if that hasn't gone in, we're sat here now, it'd have been a very, probably a lot more gloomier, this podcast, and we'd be talking about, we probably think we're down, particularly if we don't get something on Friday. It's massive, absolutely massive, and it obviously Friday's now massive. Probably one of the most important goals he's scored.
Tony Lawson made a good point there. He doesn't have time to think. There are a lot of strikers and footballers like that. I see it in my team that I manage. Some of our players, if they don't think, they've got good technique and they score, but you put them through one-on-one, too much time to think, and it puts you in two minds.
It's like playing pool, isn't it? Like, I'm a really good pool player until I think about it. Like, if I'm just not really concentrating, chatting to my mate and sort of drinking me pint, I can pop. Yeah, it's easy. As soon as I start to go, right, what I want to do here is I want to bring it back off this, I fall to bits. As soon as I second guess myself, that's it. I overthink it. And trust your instinct. There's a comment there from Big Dog about Tomo telling him to shoot, and I think that's interesting because if you remember the very early CJ, when he first came, he used to do that all the time. Our only tactic under Early Critchley was get it in the corner for CJ to run after very fast. And he'd just cut inside and shoot. Sometimes, sometimes effectively, sometimes ineffectively. But it's like he's stopped doing that in the last couple of years. And I think if Tomo has just gone, look, mate, you're quick, you've got a decent shot, why don't you use it? Then it makes sense, doesn't it?
Early shots always cause problems. So that's nice. Lads, just get your shots off early. You don't know what's going to happen. Deflections, they're not ready for it. But absolute scenes when that went in, wasn't it?
Proper
got to be limbs of the season by a long way, I think.
Yeah,
comparable to Bolton.
And as well, all of a sudden, they're not time wasting, are they, for that last... Well, it wasn't even the last 7 minutes, because I think the ref added a couple more on top of that, didn't he? And like I say, it's not necessarily we got what we deserved in terms of, I think back to, was it Leyton Orient we played that time, where we've had probably 8 or 9 glorious chances and lost the game. We didn't have any real clear-cut chances, but it was their spoiling tactics that, for me, was like, yes, have that, because you've come here for a point, you've had no intent, and you've got what you deserve, rather than we've created loads, And like you say, the scenes it was incredible. And I think for, like you say, there was a lot of kids there, wasn't there? I think probably a lot of tickets had been given out to schools and stuff. I was walking out and there was a kid in front of me and he was, can I go on Friday? Can I go on Friday? And that's your next generation, isn't it? Or they don't necessarily think about the 90 minutes being crap. They're just like, I saw a last minute goal, Dad. It was absolutely brilliant. Can I go again? That's important.
And they were celebrating in the family stand. They went over to that corner, didn't they? So those a lot of kids and dads on the ticket, on dads and mums on the ticket, on the cheap tickets might have been in there, and it's good for that, isn't it? Listen, I would have loved that to be at the North End, and that's something actually. I think it was an ABFTT said, "Oh, I'm glad it was down there because those young kids saw it, where people in the North most of the people in the North are going to be there virtually every week." I mean, it'd been fantastic for CJ to score in the North, but I get it. I get that point in that, they're the ones we want. We want 11,000 home fans. I think we had 10,500 home fans, didn't we? We want 10,500 home fans every week, don't we? And in order to do that, we've got to get more people back in the ground. And there wasn't a great deal to encourage them until that moment. And at least that moment was sort of theirs, wasn't it, as well as ours, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I get that. I get that.
I must admit, I feel a bit like that, though. I mean, we can moan about the game, but who cares? We won 1-0 and we scored a last-minute winner. So, at this stage, what more do we want? It's been an absolutely shit season. That was one of the best. That was probably the best moment of the season, or certainly one of the best moments of the season. And it was there's not been many goals celebrated with that kind of wild abandon. It's all
the last home game maybe, but was equal.
Well, yeah. The Vale game.
But listen, it's been turgid, hasn't it? It's been turgid, and that was, the 8 minutes goes up, and we're thinking. I mean, we're all happy there was 8 minutes because it gives us that bit more time, doesn't it? But I think we literally scored within 30 seconds of that going up, and there's no better way to win a game than right at the end, It was quite wild in the North, and the noise was incredible from then to the end of the game and beyond the end of the game. When we go to the sort of encouragement for the players and for Evo post match, it's brilliant. And that going back to what we said about the beginning of the pod, that's what justified making that Saturday what it was, because I think it gave us probably an extra 1,000 on the gate. Some we might have turned up anyway with it being an important game. But hopefully, if there's an extra 1,000 turned up, extra 1,500 turned up, half of them will come back Friday, won't they? At least. Yeah. And we'll maybe have more of the, more of the regular, hopefully we're going to have all the regulars turn up, and we'll hopefully have a 10,000 plus crowd against Exeter, because we're not going to have many away fans again, are there? So we'll hopefully have another 10,000 crowd, because that's what we need. We need to have that same
level of intensity in the ground from the outset.
Off the pitch as well as on the pitch. From the outset, they have been in free fall. They seem to have struggled since Caldwell left, and I'm probably going to discuss this anyway. But the last thing we want to do is give them anywhere to hide. We want to be in the faces, and we want the crowd in the faces, and we want to have that same atmosphere again. It's exactly the same atmosphere we want. And the only people who can do that is us. That was, I suppose, was a little bit of a marketing wrap around Saturday, but we need to do it now. We need to create that atmosphere on our own. We've done it loads of times. We can do it again, but we're going to have to take ownership of it, do it, and make sure that. I'd like to think we might have a better game on Friday than we had, from our perspective, than we had on Saturday.
Well, they've got to come at us, haven't they? They can't. A draw's really no good to them.
Yeah. So listen, all of us have to be there. It's one of them that you've got. And I think if we can win, you don't want to curse yourselves, but if we win on Friday, that gives us a 5 points gap over Exeter with 5 games remaining. So I thought it was 4, but it's 5 games remaining. So that's a pretty healthy gap to have against a team who has managed 1 draw in God knows how many games. I think they lost the previous 7, if I remember rightly.
They haven't won for 14 games in the league.
I think Burton
is 13 actually. Was in the league, yeah. 13 in the league, 14 total.
14 all competitions.
Yeah.
And I had a look at it's a fun fact they put in the chat before. Matt Taylor's taken over from Caldwell, hasn't he? And he's in his last 2 jobs, which was Rotherham, and I can't remember where else he was. His win ratio is something like 0.23. So he's not exactly covered himself in glory in the last few years. I don't know how they play, because under Caldwell they always were quite tippy-tappy, weren't they? They were quite pleasant to play against, or certainly they suited us, you might say. But I don't really know how Taylor plays, whether he's trying to get him more direct or whether they still are more of a football inside.
Play a 4-2-3-1, according to I see it, bits of research that I've done. A good point to look at is to look at the goal difference column. Wigan getting spanked 3-0 has taken them within 3 of us. They're minus 13, we're minus 16. Exeter are minus 10. So this is a game Exeter are going to have to come at us, and I think this is a game we can't play on the back foot like we did against Wigan. We've got to go for the win, and if we can beat them 3-0, I mean, it goes without saying, if we beat them 3-0, that means that equalises our goal difference as well. So that's potentially worth a point in the relegation scrap. So I think we really need to go at them and get that atmosphere going in the ground and beat them 3-0, and we're almost level with Wigan on goal difference. Hopefully we'll overtake them and equalise the goal difference with Exeter as well. So, yeah, their away record is 1-4, drawn 4, lost 12. Our home record, 1-9 now, drawn 5, lost 6. So we've got to go into this game with confidence, haven't we?
You'd think so, yeah. I mean, obviously, Saturday's massive, that last-minute winner, and the games before that, we had a good point at Cardiff, and that great win against Port Vale. And, momentum is something I think we've struggled with all season, bar probably a decent, December. And just when we think, right, we've said this many times, haven't we, on the back of a good performance, right, we should have some confidence going into that game, and then we've, we've had some horror shows, but I don't know, touch wood, hopefully we've turned a little bit of a corner in that respect. And like you say, there can't be any, well, we don't want to lose like we did against Wigan. We've got to go for it. All of a sudden, like you say, that goal difference is back within our reach now. They're on a terrible run, and they have got to go for it, which I think will probably suit us. I think it's one thing we are good at. It's hitting teams on the break when they push forward. I'd rather that than what we saw from Burton on Saturday, where they just sat back with no intent. So hopefully they will come with some intent, and that will play to our strengths.
Pricing wise, can the club do anything to get more bodies through the door, or are they not allowed? I think this is a game where
I think there's only so many offers you can do, isn't there? Is it 4 per season? We've obviously done this 5 ticket, 5 game ticket thing. I suppose they can. There's plenty they can do with schools, isn't there? For giving them out for kids.
Unfortunately, they're on holiday now.
Of course they are.
I think also it's just a bit late in it now to be starting.
Probably
something for Friday. I don't think we've used all 4 promotions up, but I suspect it's too late. To organise it, you'd have had to organise it before now. I mean, literally, we're on Monday night. The game's 3.5 days away, isn't it? So trying to
you forget it's Friday, isn't it?
Now is I don't think you have to necessarily agree these ones with the opposition club, but even so, I think it's too late, unfortunately. So I think we just have to hope Good Friday. It's a big game. It's a relegation almost decider, I would go as far as to say, and that you've got to hope that most of those 11,000 forget the first 90 minutes. What you saw in the 8 minutes of injury time is enough to say, well, I'm coming back because I love that atmosphere and I want to be there and experience that again. Because
out of my group of mates,
that's what you pay money for football, isn't it? It's for those moments. Sometimes you're lucky enough to see a game that excites you from start to finish, but unless you're watching Real Madrid or Liverpool at the best, or Paris Saint-Germain or whatever, the reality is that most of us watch a lot of turgid stuff, but we live for moments. And we had our moment in the 91st minute. We had our moments in the second half against Port Vale, and that's what we do it for. We do it for that, where it all goes mental, and it did go mental on Saturday, and hopefully it's going to go mental again on perhaps more than one occasion, slightly before the 91st minute on Friday, because that's what we want.
Sounds like it wasn't just a game, Tim. It was a moment.
It was a moment. It was literally a moment, was it?
It was, really. Wasn't it? After all we laughed about the moment thing, it was literally a moment. I was thinking we should get an advertising campaign out there with just basically saying, it's Good Friday. What else are you going to do? And then have a really tired, depressed-looking man walking around Wicks, looking really fed up, and then just like cross-cut that with the North going mental and CJ running through the camera. It'd be brilliant. Fantastic.
Get yourself an AI, you could get that advert.
I could, yeah.
That's your homework for
it is
for tonight, Mitch, because we're on an hour, so.
Right, Nick has spoken. We'll leave it there. So, obviously, just around the room before we head off, match predictions for this biggest game of the season. I'll have my opening gambit. I want us to win 3-0. I think we'll win 3-0 and cement our place back in division by means of goal difference as well. So,
can I ask one question? I know I'm not the host, but can I ask one question of the panel and yourself, John?
You may.
It's something I've been musing on. Are you picking Franco or are you putting Peacock Vale back in?
That's a great shout, actually. Yeah, that's a great shout. I liked the fact that Franco was more authoritative. When they lined up to play out from the back, when there was nothing on, the midfield weren't dropping in to take the ball. He's right, well, fuck this then, we'll just go along.
Yeah.
Because there was no options. So he's cleared them all out and he's gone long. And he didn't make any mistakes. So, it's a tough one.
He didn't have any mistakes to make, though, did he? Because other than the one he flapped, he literally had nothing to say. We didn't see a save from him. So it's hard to judge.
Is Peacock Farrell even back, though?
I think he's back because they lost.
They play Wales tomorrow night, don't they? I think because obviously Wales got knocked out as well. I mean, that's a depressing game to get yourself up for, anyway. You've just missed out on the World Cup. You've got to play the other team who missed out. So
it's like derby, isn't it? That
assuming he's back, it is a tough one because I'm sort of the same as Tim. You kind of go, what he had to do on Saturday, he did well. I thought he commanded his area, bar that one corner where he flapped a bit. He was quite vociferous. He was directing and telling him to get out. But you can't ignore the fact that he didn't really have a save to make. And also, two managers of both, who obviously see a lot more of the keepers than we do, of both, as poor as Peacock Farrell has been at times, have both still preferred to pick him.
Oh, look at that. BPF pulled out the Northern Ireland squad today. That muddies the waters somewhat.
Well, I think for what it's worth, I'd have gone with Franco.
I think it'll be Peacock Farrell.
Tactically, to make sure he's available for Saturday.
Maybe.
I've got a little bit of a twinge. It's a nothing game, isn't it? We've got a little bit of a twinge, but they'll be fit for Saturday. Mark my words.
Bison's made a good point. Why would you stick with him and BPF as your number one keeper?
That was my point. They've both picked him all season, haven't they? Which is why I think we will probably see Peacock Farrell back in, but who knows? And I'm going to go 1-0 on Friday, John. Which, incidentally, on the Pool Prediction League, which for some reason in the Tipsy Seagull, it's a bit like being in the ground. You cannot get a signal. So I couldn't put 1-0 with Hamilton scoring, which was my prediction. So if you could bump me back up to the top of the table. Please.
Well, Eddie's being caught by yourself on Stephen Southworth.
Well, it's not me, because I couldn't put me bloody prediction on. But anyway,
I couldn't do mine in the ground.
I abandoned it because John. I put my prediction on 1 minute after kickoff, and he won't let it run.
Rules are rules, Tim. Without rules, there's anarchy.
So that's it. I fucked it off. Spat me dummy out. Took me ball home.
The Grice Reaper wasn't happy when that prediction of his went missing. That he apparently made, was he? He was not happy.
But yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 again on Friday, and I don't care if it's last minute or comes off someone's backside. It's result over performance again, but we'll see.
Are there any more villains who could be redeemed? Well, maybe villains harsh, but we got Husband the week before. I know he got a flick off Walters, but it was Husband's goal in my mind that forever. CJ this week, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Peacock Farrell?
Yeah, just a massive kick, huge gust of wind, and in it goes.
Yeah. I'm going 3-1. Exeter will go 1-0 up. We will be awful for 20 minutes, and then the horse is going to score from a corner, and we'll stroll it from there.
And unaccustomed as I am to actually predict the Blackpool win, because I do like to predict a defeat in the hope that my powers of prediction are as shit as they normally. I want to go on doing the fixed odds. I can't see Exeter beating us, unfortunately. So I would actually normally see that as a positive for us, I hasten to add. So I'm actually going to have to go for a 2-0 win. I'm going to go with the Aspinator and because he's like the guru. So I'll go 2-0 win.
The Oracle.
It's a good shout that Iekwe will be this week's redeeming.
Oh yeah, it will. Yeah. Everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying the same thing.
That's a good shout.
Great toe poke.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
His toe will fall off after he scored it, but it'll be
it'll fall off. Okay, I think we'll leave it there then. Oh God, come round Friday. What a game it's going to be. Right, just another bit of news. We have gone over 2,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. It has been a long and arduous slog, but we have thankfully made it to that iconic number. So thank you very much to everybody who has liked and subscribed to the show.
Have you not got a celebration video planned, John?
Anyone got a ventriloquist puppet handy?
It's been done before that. Think of something new. No, in all seriousness, if you're on here and you don't subscribe. There's no reason not to, is there? At least you get notified when we're on. If we don't make it on a Monday and we have to do it on a Tuesday or whatever else, then you know, don't you?
Smash that like button.
Like and subscribe.
See you later. Up the pool.
Up the pool.
He's been involved in 2. Can he make 3? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try. What a goal!